Live streaming is on.
Hello and welcome to this CodeBuddies.org live code hangout. Today we're going to be working on some sustainable urban design tasks for an open source project we're developing. So thanks for checking out our live stream. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat during this hangout. And let's just dig into the code. I'm here with my friend John. John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm John.
And my name is Briley, and we're both the kind of lead developers on this open source project.
I'm going to have to pass that distinction on to you, Briley.
All right, cool, thanks. And what we've got basically is a way of looking at an urban environment and seeing the number of households or buildings that is in that environment that have access to certain amenities, specifically that have convenient access to food and transportation. And this is just a prototype, so our definitions might not be in any way reflecting other people's definitions of what an amenity is or what convenient is. But we just are trying to get this prototype into a working form and giving people, urban designers and other stakeholders, the opportunity to come up with their own definitions and analyze the state of their urban environment, and perhaps use that analysis to launch an initiative to improve the environment in certain ways to meet certain goals, like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So one common type of geospatial or geographic analysis is to see how close things are to other things. It's called proximity, and that's what we're working. We're looking at how close people are to food sources and transportation. There's a few other types of analysis we will aim to support with our project. Right now we are using some kind of hard-coded data, and that means that when somebody else wants to try this analysis on their local machine, they would have to have these files available to them. What we're going to do is use another library called OSMNX, Openstreetmap Network Explorer, I think, to download some data and allow the person running this notebook to specify if they want to download data from Manhattan, New York, or if they want to download for Oakland, California, or Emeryville, California. I'm going to download for Tampere, Finland. And then you can specify the type of data you'd like to download. And we have a few types we're interested in currently, and they're called points of interest in the OpenStreetMap vernacular, so we'll just stick with that. So it looks like I've got this OSMNX installed. Let's import it. I did that off stream just so you wouldn't have to watch me flounder. I already will be floundering enough, as is typically the case. This OSMNX project is really cool, though. It lets you do a lot of analysis with OpenStreetMap data. Here's an example where you take a point and you find out what is within a certain distance, 500 meters in this case, of that point via the transport or the road network. So our analysis so far has just done a really crude, what's called a buffer or a radius around a point. We can actually get a little bit more refined and say not only what is within 500 meters of that point on the transport network, but what is within 500 meters of that point on the walking transport network, or driving. Here's one where you specify that we want to be able to walk to these destinations. So it looks like this project is going to provide a wealth of tools. And I found out about this project through a course on Planet Eisen, I guess is how you say it, called Python Street Network Analysis. So we've already got this GeoPandas installed in our local project, and we've been working with that, so that's good. Python ecosystem tends to be fairly cohesive, and common tooling will be used commonly throughout various projects. Now we've also imported this OSMNX. I'm not going to give it these shorthand names. I don't think that's so important, but I will just make sure that import worked and tell it to cache the data. See, there's where my copy and pasting code is not going to work. That's okay. What this is going to do is give us information about what's going on, and it's going to try to cache this data because the OpenStreetMap data just for Finland is over 1 gigabyte. First thing we can do is just grab the boundary of a city, and I want to see if I can be more explicit. I think this should work if I say the city is Tampere, Finland, but sometimes, as the OSMNX documentation points out, some place names are really ambiguous. By defining a city name here, OSMNX has to kind of parse this and split it out by columns and figure out that this is a city and this is a country. But sometimes there might be a county named Tampere or something in the United States. Like the example given in this was Alameda. It's both, I guess, a city and a county. So Alameda County and Alameda, and by default, if you ask for Alameda, California, you get the county. I guess it takes the bigger geospatial unit. So there's a way of splitting these out and being explicit about what component is what, and I think it looks like this. But I'm going to just try it firstly with without that approach to see if we encounter any problems. So I can get this as a geodata frame, and then I can plot it. So I should probably just name this OX, but okay, I'm going to be stubborn. Okay, so we got our first error. String object has no attribute CRS. All right, that's kind of a weird one. So CRS is a coordinate reference system. And it looks like it's OSMX is trying to project the data, trying to figure out what coordinates it's in by default and project it to a lat long. For some reason, let me make sure I did this correct, this part up here. Okay, so that was the problem. I didn't read closely enough. I have the city string, but in order to get it as a proper method, I need to use this geocode. Just going to leave the chat pretty large here. I want to make it as simple as possible for people to change these. Okay, whatever, I'll just do shorthand. I think it's pretty, I do the shorthand with hand. It's not one, I don't really try to save keystrokes. I don't think that's necessarily a laudable programming goal. All right, so yeah, Tampere actually has a pretty strange shape. I'll just show you on OpenStreetMap. Should we check out slow, John?
I'm just muted. I have some background noise, but sure.
All right, cool. So here's the city boundary of Tampere. You can see it's shaped like a boot almost. And the main urban area is here. It's not a very big urban area, but it has encompassed some really big rural area. A lot of people's summer cottages are up here. So anyway, that's why we got that funny shape, because essentially what the project did is it looked in the Nominatum, the Openstreetmap list of names, and found a name that matches Tampere. And it wasn't too ambiguous. There are cases where it's going to be more ambiguous, and we'll handle those. So let's try San Luis Obispo, or someplace else cool. All right.
There is no O in Luis.
Luis Obispo. That's what I was thinking at first. So there's San Luis Obispo.
That's the county.
So now we have our first ambiguity. So let's go ahead and try to get the city. Let's do this properly. And I think that example was down. More or less it's a dictionary. I think I should be able to. And this might also be documented if I say geocode to GDF. So it's going to geocode, it's going to look up this date and convert it to a geodata frame. Let me see the docs here. Query could be a string or dictionary or list. So the dictionary will be structured something like this. San Luis Obispo, California.
Very good.
There we go. Now it's a little bit more funky, kind of like a acid-induced visualization of a rabbit or some kind of dancing rabbit. That's my Rorschach. What do you think?
I see a dog's head sort of looking down and to the right.
Yes, I do that. I do see that also, kind of like Goofy, with the ear pointing back. And is this its shoulder or is its mouth open?
You know, honestly, my first impression was that it was its neck, and there was just sort of a white gap between the top and the bottom of its neck.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So we're making progress. Now, the main reason for this is, again, to make it relevant to people outside of like Tampere. So having this as a parameter at the top of the notebook means you can apply every step below using data instead of having these hard-coded values. Very cool. So that's some progress. We've got what's called like a shape, a geometry of the area of interest, and we can use that to now clip the data. And I just got to scroll through information. What we're going to start with is these points of interest. I think this is going to also be useful when we get into like street level analysis, but that's not the goal right now. So pardon my scrolling fast. There's a way to query points of interest in one of these notebooks. Graph-based queries, custom filters, infrastructure. It might have even done in just the main features demo. And also does these interesting statistical analysis of the network, finding places like this area is the most probably central to almost any destination. Any place you want to go is more than likely going to pass through these areas. So as a transport planner, you might want to plan for increased capacity in this area. It can also look at routing and take into account the speeds and elevation or the slope of these areas in its routing analysis. You can download whole, cities of data. You can check out how grid-like the road network is versus ones that are much more. What word does it use for that? In your case, not grid-like. Here we go. So there's this method called points of interest from place. And I guess here we'll filter by the amenity column. find all the amenities. So I think the query is a set argument here. It's not. These are tags. All right, so I did remove the query. In the example, they have I don't think this is the case. Like in a string. It is. Okay. That's unfortunate. That's inconsistent. Or actually, no, what I did was, I should use this city name instead of the city shape. So the city name is a dictionary. Let's go back to city. Or location equals. Okay, so in San Luis Obispo, there are 1,302 points of interest. All right, so there's a lot of information here. And a lot of it's kind of sparse, so there's a lot of empty values. And that's kind of one of the problems of mixing everything into one big basket, schools and places of worship, that some of the other metadata that gets added that's really specific to only one class, for example, fuel or self-service, gets kind of bundled in there. But what we can do is just take a look at, for example, we can get the value counts for the amenities. Just learn how to spell. And most of these, there's a lot of parking in San Luis Obispo. And toilets. Restaurant and toilet.
It's hard to find either of those things. I'd hate to try to find a dentist.
Yeah, let's see what there's the least of. Police.
Oh, well, I guess there's only one station.
Yeah, and there's that one beer garden.
Can't think of what that is. Only one graveyard. I was going by that graveyard one time and passing someone else on a bike going the opposite direction. And as we passed, he smiled broadly at me and gestured towards the graveyard and said, "The future."
Thank you, for kind stranger.
Yeah.
I didn't already have that lingering in the back of my mind. So
He seemed really sort of happy about it.
Yes.
Progress.
Aspirations. And what I'm seeing here, though, I need for this analysis to find grocery stores. I don't see grocery stores, supermarkets, or convenience stores. Maybe I'm just scrolling too fast. Now there has to be. There's barbecue. But maybe our query is wrong. maybe the filter is too strict. Or maybe grocery stores don't sort of qualify. Let's just see if I get all of the data tags as required. Okay, so this is, then we get into the Openstreetmap kind of data. I don't know how to describe it, just how they've structured the data. So So if you want to follow along at home, you could also be checking out this sort of how Openstreetmap data are organized. So what I did is I downloaded this data originally from GeoFabric.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they queried it to get the points of interest and split them out. But maybe they published their... They got a lot of tags. Building, highway name, source, amenity, shop. It's not used on very many. Convenience supermarket, though, that is actually kind of where I'm at, what I'm asking for, but I just don't know. There are so many objects in the database, maybe that, the vastness of the street network, geometry, and other things outweighs these. But it could be that's what we're after. So let's see, what was that? Shop. And how do I do a composite query? We want convenience or supermarket or bakery, I suppose. Ah, so you just put a list. That's cool. That's pretty convenient, actually. So this is going to be food sources. The list of values. Bakery I would consider a food source. Daily bread. I probably would be better to do this with Tampere data because I'm more familiar, but let's just take a look here. Now we got San Luis Obispo, Ferb's Bakery, Trader Joe's, Food for Less. Looks like we're on the right track here. 30 of them. Does that sound about right?
Fast food?
Do we consider fast food a food source? Should that be included in the analysis? It can be. It's no problem.
No, I was going to say I can't think of 30 fast food joints, but yeah, could easily be 30 food sources.
Supermarkets, convenience, and bakeries.
Yeah.
Let's just rerun these one more time. We're kind of making the code a little bit more clear what's going on. All right, so now we've got our food sources. Next, so I'll remove this from the list. Now we want to get bus stops. Can you help me find the tag for bus stops? I'll be right back. I gotta use the restroom.
Am I supposed to have this notebook open?
All right. They might have had an example here. Beginning with highway equals bus stop. $1,451 bus stops.
Wow.
$1,401 bus stops. Okay. So the last thing we want, we got bus stops. Whereas now we need the building footprints. So 12,000 buildings in Openstreetmap, or I guess just say building is yes. Or where building has a value. I guess it could be building true. Oh yeah, one other thing we can do with these data frames is plot them. Does this look roughly the right shape? I think. Yeah, it still looks like that dog.
Yeah.
And this must be the downtown district.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and on the bottom left, there's a sort of a area called Los Osos Valley Road. A lot of big box stores.
Right here, or here.
Yeah, and then towards the bottom right, that probably is the airport along Broad Street. So yeah, that looks about right.
Nice. All right, let's try to get these building footprints then. I guess we can just use. The problem is there's nodes, ways, and relations. So there's this multiple types. I don't know if building is true would be sufficient to get all those to pass. A little bit slower here. On overpass turbo, it's a lot faster, but it's probably on a smaller set. I don't know. Larger area. Oh, here we got a result back. All right, so there's 20,244 buildings. That sounds right, in the right ballpark. In Tomper, there were 16,000. Look at this. This is nice.
Uh-oh. Well, yeah, I'm not terribly surprised. I feel like you need a bike at the very least. I mean, unless you're right downtown.
All right, cool. So we got some data in. Now let's see if I can change the analysis to use these new data sets.
You know, an interesting sort of thought is that as amenities become denser, housing cost probably increases.
Ooh, yeah, it'll be interesting. If you can get some real estate data, because affordability is a key component in livability. So yeah. So I'm going to delete these, and now we're going to start. We've already checked the shape for each of those. And I'll just put a little header above each of these because it's just easier to follow along when I use some markdown here. I will go ahead and commit this because we've done actually quite a lot of work. There's a cache directory that gets picking up on. So we'll take care of that with gignore. File exists. Let me edit it. I just have to drop down to the kernel. So I didn't want to include data or cache. In very cool. We'll hop over here. And we've downloaded directly. Downloading the data with OSMNX. And let's check the head again. Looks like the OSM ID in the column, the default identity column, are kind of mapping together. They're matching.
Okay.
But it might be that we can just set that column. I think it hurts to set it here. Just drop the other column. Guaranteed or unique. Buildings data frame is not defined. Oh, they're GDF, not DF. Hope I've been consistent with that. I don't think I have been, but with these other ones, I'll rerun that. It's a little bit verbose to put like the data format or data type, perhaps, in the file, in the variable name. It's already has GDF buildings tags. To download the food sources, it takes 300 milliseconds. Bus stops 2 seconds. The buildings take longer. And resetting that index actually is a slow operation, so maybe I just will leave that one out of it. I think so. Let me see if one of these other cells. Oh, the buildings are still downloading. I wonder how long that takes.
I don't know, but yeah, building outlines pretty data intensive, I feel like.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could just get the centroids directly from OpenStreetMap. Have that, but I guess that'll be one of the kind of interesting things our project can do is just provide those. It'll once we create the derived table, it can just. I'm just going to delete this. Other people can download that. All right, so then let's create these centroids here, and it's actually pretty fast to do the centroids once we've got the data. No, it didn't work. All right, so that's the problem. Is it's a geodata frame, but it doesn't. It does have a geometry column. Oh no, I see what I did wrong. Careful. All right, let's time this. How long it takes to calculate the centroids from all those. It's in a geographic coordinate reference system. Results from centroid are likely incorrect. Use geoseries to CRS to pre-projected geometry. So we're projected to coordinate reference systems. This is where we need to actually go from Latlons to Web Mercator or something, so we can start working in a better unit value. So I guess we would do that after we've downloaded it, but before we do the centroids. Actually, it's just projecting the data. All right. So for each of those, we're going to do this. And how does that work? You just ESG 30, oops, 857 or whatever. You can say EPSG directly, 3857 in place equals true. And does it take a string or an integer? Let's see. Not defined. All right, so pretty quick to reproject them. Let's just rinse and repeat that. Stops. Food sources. All right, let's more now. Food sources, stops, buildings. Now we can get these centroids. It only takes 240 milliseconds to do these. These are incredibly fast operations. Did it work? And it worked. Oh my goodness. On 20,000 rows, 26,000 geometries, that was hecka fast. 20,000. All right. So then we can just name those columns for subsequent use. Probably drop a lot of these other columns, but I guess it's not too bad. I don't even know how many values, how often these values are. We're using park and ride, architect. Yeah, that would be kind of interesting. So that worked. That worked. so we can't plot this, but I think it's supposed to render it if I just put it like this. When I get the unison of those, unison. Similarly, this bus stop sketchman should render something. Well, I wonder if this unison is not necessary for the analysis. No, because these are both geoseries. I need a multi-polygon to do the intersection. So I do have to get these catchments. Problem is, nothing's coming out there, so check if any of these have a true value. Yeah, there is some 14,000 of them are within the food catchment. Okay, so things are working. It's just these plotting steps aren't out for some reason. So really, based on a 1 kilometer buffer, it seems like most places are really close within food, walking distance to food. And if we go back up here, this shape, this one, maybe this buffer distance is just huge. 1,000 meters. Or maybe the units are different. 3857. Should be in meters though. Now we've got an attribute for each of those, whether or not they have access to amenities, and within the food catchment, then we can take a look at it on a sort of map it. So how does that look?
Bus stops, food places, and what else?
This is within food catchment, so this is the areas in green that have access to food resources within a kilometer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm surprised that it's not the entire thing, but sure, that looks about right.
All right, now let's check the combined analysis.
It's funny how it looks in like Tampere.
Yeah. Oops. GDF. And now that we've added combining the bus stops within 250 meters and food places within a kilometer. We have more areas that don't have the full access to amenities. And we can actually count those. Did I count those up here actually? Value counts. Let's do it here. So 60% have access to amenities, 63%. So it's actually not as good as Tampere, and that's mainly because the public transport maybe isn't as strong. And granted, I did a smaller selection in Tampere, and maybe Slow has a tighter urban, like more dense urban fabric. If I change this analysis to do Tampere, in fact, let's do that.
Yeah, I suspect our public transit isn't as robust.
Yeah, the problem is Tampere's got a lot of rural area. So if I run this whole thing, I have to be OCD a little bit. I think most Python needs to use single quotes anyway, but whatever. They're not significant. You can use singular quotes or double quotes interchangeably.
Oh, really?
Here's our location.
Yeah, kind of split there. The double quotes seem more normal, but the single quotes don't require the shift.
Yeah. So the cool thing of follow-up might be to compare two locations side by side. I can basically encapsulate this code, so it would let us do that type of thing. That would be of interest to somebody. Anyway, this is, I think, good progress. What I can do is commit and push these, and we can spend a little bit of time seeing if you can get this working on your local environment, and try it with one more city, and then we can merge that. Once this gets merged, like reviewed and merged, I'll be able to start in on some client work in the JavaScript client to integrate this computational backend with an interactive JavaScript front end using Turf.js. I can work on that over the next couple of days. Well, yeah, I think so. Bless you.
Thanks.
So yeah, Tampere, it takes a while to download these buildings too. There might be a more efficient query we can use. But this is only going to run like once a week to get the raw OSM data. And I think we might just rely on the GeoFabric export for that. Oh, dude, they have footprints. They have a footprints module for this. It's actually what we're after. From place. Ah, yes. Let's just change this. Let's see if this is a little bit faster. So what else have you been up to lately? Anything exciting or
Yeah. So I think since the last time we've really collaborated, are we still on Code Buddies?
Yeah, so yeah, we're broadcasting too. So
Um, I moved. I'm in my own house now, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, it took a little bit to get internet restored and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually ended up setting up, well, not a mesh network, but I used those same nanostations that I learned about from you at Woolman.
What did you flash them? What did you? I was trying to think of this the other day on the live stream. What the hardware, not the hardware, the firmware was that we used for those.
Okay, so the company, just the firmware, Ubiquity's firmware. I didn't really realize, or I still don't know if there's another option. I did also get a wireless router, which of course I was careful to get one that ran well with OpenWRT. And that's a lot of fun because I probably could have done this with the Linksys firmware, but I have a network file share set up. It has a USB, so I have like a 4 terabyte external hard drive that has a lot of media files that I can access from any computer now.
Cool.
Stuff like that. So the internet works pretty good. We get it actually. It's our internet service provider is a Wi-Fi provider. We get a signal bounced to us from a mountaintop somewhere because we're kind of in the crevice of a canyon.
Really similar to Woolman then.
Yeah, except the difference is that I'm not sharing it with a bunch of people, and when I do a speed test, it's kind of spotty, in terms of just uptime, I guess you could say, but typically the download speed is about 14 megabits per second, which is really decent as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, here's the moment of truth. Let's see if this new approach, this library actually has a footprints module and has a footprints from place, which I can provide this location. So I might rename this to place, but in any case, let's see how long this one takes. Yes, the default should be building. We do want just buildings, but they have footprints for land use. It returns a geodata frame. Hey, that was fast, actually, 31 seconds. That's much faster than the previous one where I was using some weird query. So now we can plot it. It's probably going to take longer to plot it than it was to actually download the data. There's 40,000 building footprints. So yeah, this is drastically different. In when I had that little rectangle selected, there was only 16,000 building footprints, and I'm not sure how that original query was. So I think we're going to be looking at a better situation in Slow than in Tampere in terms of coverage, but I don't know. We'll find out. Because of the amount of rural area here. Centroids, still fast. And actually, I should rerun the Slow analysis too, because again, since I changed the way we got the building footprints, then it could have an impact on both of these. All right, so our buffering, and you can see this is interesting. The transport network for Tampere, we got these really long bus lines that take you way out there. They run like twice a day. So really, Tampere is kind of more like a region, I guess. Almost, but not quite. Finland's kind of sparse compared to California. Most places in California, at least.
I see. Okay. What's your population?
5 million in the country, 250,000 in Tampere.
That's incredible. We have 40 million in the state of California.
Yeah, you have cities with more, like Los Angeles has got more people than
Yeah,
Tom.
LA and the Bay Area, maybe not city limits, but the metropolitan area, each about 10 million people. That is just strange to me. What is your military like?
Compulsory.
Really? How many countries are like that?
Not many. Well, I think there's an option you have to do service. You have compulsory service, but there's an option to do, how do they word it? Like peace service or something like that. Humanitarian service. But not many people take that, and I think it's kind of frowned upon. Okay, so then we've got, let's see, the catchment's different, and didn't check the proportion of those. Actually, the proportion is probably more interesting. So there's 56% of buildings that are within a kilometer of a food source. So yeah, it's not so hot. I suppose I can do values count here. And so what I might do is look in the Tampere analysis. We might actually ask for like the Tampere, what would you call that? The metropolitan, or what's the name for the area just around the urban area there? I guess the urban area
of San Luis Obispo.
Well, with Tampere, because San Luis Obispo looks like it's more compact.
Yeah, it's not really a metropolitan. But yeah, for Tampere, yeah, I call it the metropolitan area.
Yeah, so it takes over a minute to find out buildings in the food catchment. And then access to amenities is taking longer. So how would you rate the access to amenities in your neighborhood? It sounds like if you're having internet, if you consider internet as an amenity, it was a little bit challenging, but you got it in.
That's a great question. If you consider absence of other people an amenity, then we have ample access to that amenity.
Like Walden Pond.
Yeah, Woolman was a bit of an anomaly because, on the one hand, you're in the middle of nowhere, but on the other hand, you're surrounded by people.
Yeah.
No, it's a really great balance as far as I'm concerned between kind of being in nature and close to civilization. Because of the rugged terrain, you don't have to go far to feel fairly isolated.
Right.
But there is nothing within walking distance other than just the forest. If you want to go look at a forest.
Well, that's kind of nice.
But it is bikeable. So
Bikeable.
That's a big deal.
And do you feel safe on the roads, biking on the roads there?
No, but I just do it anyway.
So it's not like a family bikeable?
No, it's under no circumstances is it a family bikeable. It's the road to get here is narrow, winding, and doesn't have shoulders. The only sort of positive is that there's very little traffic.
That's what similar to what was at Woolman going up to Grass Valley.
Newtown
Road.
It's very similar to Newtown.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't do that very often. It was a pretty big slope.
Yeah, especially if you're going up to Nevada City. That's.
I think I did it once or twice.
Did you have a nice bike? I mean, your bike can make a big difference.
That's true. I was using one of the bike shop bikes, so just whatever they had.
That could have been, yeah. Well, you know what? The truth is that biking, if you're biking on hills, it actually takes quite a lot to get a machine that is efficient. It doesn't happen by accident. That you can just hop on a bike and bike uphill and feel like it's a worthwhile experience.
Yeah. So that's kind of coming back into this urban analysis part.
Yeah.
Right now we're doing such a crude analysis. We're doing just buffering. This OSM NX project gives us a little bit more refined tools, not only looking at the road network, but even the slope of the terrain, because it makes a big difference if, as you're kind of highlighting, you have to be really dedicated to biking for many reasons, including how wide the street is, how many cars, how often it's trafficked, how central it is. I guess that's what the centrality might come into place. So I think there will be a lot more opportunity to explore this library because transportation is so central to livability in many ways, unless you're just wanting to live at Walden Pond and all your needs are met there from the fishing pond and stuff. So you have to basically drive to get all your amenities, more or less, if you're going grocery shopping, or how do you arrange that to use food delivery?
I think that could be the future.
Drone delivery?
I haven't actually, just from first principles, would it be more efficient to have dedicated delivery drivers who deliver all necessary goods to residents distributed throughout an area? Or does it make sense to have the goods stockpiled in a central location and every individual resident travels to retrieve them? What do you think is more efficient there? I suspect the former.
Yeah, I think so.
That's how our bodies do it. The circulatory system.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That you can look at. There's more ways to optimize it when you have, a schedule, and you can load up those trucks with multiple deliveries rather than each person taking their own vehicle and combusting roughly the same amount of fossil fuels, going over that same route just for one single family.
So it seems like the obstruction there is the fact that people still travel to work. If it wasn't for going to work,
right,
then they wouldn't be traveling anyway. And if they weren't traveling anyway, then all these extra trips might really start to appear very expensive travel cost.
That's right.
So yeah, maybe we're stepping into a new paradigm here of truly home-based, supported by deliveries and working remotely.
I wonder if there's a way to speed this up, because this is really dang slow. Now that I've got this huge area of Tombra, this access to amenities geo within, it's just crazy slow. What is the amenities? The access to amenities, catchment.
But yeah, to answer your question, Karen drives to the grocery store typically.
Yeah, so I was figuring. And, Woolman, we could sort of arrange group outings, and by necessity, the interns had to do that. We had that car share program. And that worked out. I think it still ended up being like a single personal car for most trips, but And also the food at Woolman was delivered. So yeah, I think that's an interesting way. Is there like a neighborhood coalition or any kind of group, or are people pretty rugged individuals out in your neighborhood? Okay, so that took 8 minutes and 17 seconds. I'm just going to put a little note here. Warning, get some tea.
So I just got here about a month ago, and I bike up and down the canyon, and I do see signs called Sea Canyon protectors, I think. And so I do think there's like I don't know, there is some sort of crime watch organization, but yeah, I don't think there's a strong formally organized community that I'm aware of.
Hey, this is actually interesting. The Compras has 70% coverage on the access to amenities. So actually, it's a little bit better despite well, again, I didn't run these the same, but yeah, it will be interesting to compare Slow and Tampere on this. And maybe we can run this on your laptop next. I think the code is right. So if you, wow. But yeah, you can see there's actually a lot of buildings out here that just are probably in a similar situation to you. I'm surprised there's no food source out here. I believe that's just an omission. Because this doesn't seem right. I think there's just the data are missing. So very cool. Yep, so I've already done this 70%. All right, saving. Go ahead and this. I believe all I did was change. Query building footprints. Now I'll push it to the cloud, and if you're still on that branch, you should just be able to pull it as long as you haven't made any changes.
All right, let's see.
So I think we'll be getting some tea.
Okay, pulled it.
Okay, now you can follow the steps in the README.
All right.
Do you want to screen share? Do you suppose you have enough bandwidth to screen share?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I will mute my video. And I'll be right back. I'm going to get some water on.
All right.
Is on.
Okay, I'm back.
On.
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to
Okay.
the hangout. Let's see. I figured this out. I'm in full screen. Oh, John's in here twice. Did you get disconnected?
Say again?
You're in here
Oh,
twice.
you know what I did? I didn't. I thought I would. I wonder how I can get out of there. Yeah, I logged back in and back out, or logged out and back in, hoping that poetry would suddenly be in my path.
You have to add it. There's a copy and pasty. But yeah, this is actually.
Yeah, and
It's a gotcha.
Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah, you just need to edit. There's a copy and paste in poetry.
So I have done this once, and that didn't work.
It should work right there, right?
Wait, what?
I mean, that should have worked right there. So if you type poetry now, it should be in your path, as far as I understand, right?
Well, actually, I didn't do it that time, but yeah, I'll do it again.
Echo path.
So this should work.
Yeah, it's just appending poetry to your, or prepending poetry to your path.
Yeah, and then /inv.
I think
right.
So yeah, I'd have to defer to the docs. Hold on, the T timer is beeping.
Sure.
Yeah, so you're not alone on not being able to get poetry installed, but typically the difficulty's been on like Windows machines, and so it's kind of. I think even when I installed it, I had some fiddling around, but it was mainly copy and paste. And we could just switch to pip, the natural way of doing it. But in poetry, does use pip, and also PyProject. The reason I like poetry is it also has a constraint solver, and it's supposed to make once you get it.
I'm going to reinstall it.
Yeah.
Because the original docs was just a echoed message after I installed it. It said add it to your path, and then it said it will be automatically added to your path next time you log in. So I logged out and logged back in.
What do you do when you say echo path? What does it give you?
Yeah, it has that poetry end at the very beginning, but if you look at the poetry, I mean, I don't know how env works, but I'm wondering if I should add poetry bin to my path instead.
Maybe.
I mean, that's not what the...
Well, that's actually what the 2018 the GitHub recommended that. There's a GitHub issue about this. Exactly what you're.
So this will probably work. I'm just wondering. I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, so it works. I'm just a little peeved that that's not what the docs said to do.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably caused many people strife.
And plus, again, because I don't know how env works, I'm not sure if I'm actually missing something in my environment now. But I guess we'll find out.
Yes.
Okay, so...
Oh, by the way, so 1 second. Did you have a Z profile? Because you need to actually put that command in your Z profile if it's not already.
Okay, yeah, I do have a Z profile, and I will do that.
Okay. And there's an open pull request. one open pull request on this.
So I need to do poetry install.
From the directory, after doing poetry shell.
Which I have done.
Okay, cool. I didn't see that. I've been reading over here. Yeah, so there was a pull request opened. June 18th, recently.
No biggie.
Well, you'd think, but if those kind of hurdles can throw people and they never come back.
Yeah.
They lose confidence or, just go on to do something else. So, who are the main contributors or maintainers here of poetry? Let's see if they can get that. Or just Spader.
Maybe I misread the docs. Maybe I was supposed to source poetry and.
But that would only do it in your active shell. I don't think it would do it every time you open ZSH, as far as I understand. Maybe.
Okay. Well, I have. Okay. Let's see. I don't know if I didn't get any errors, so I guess I don't need to install the spatial index.
Good. That's funny. Yep, there's archery right there. Interesting.
Okay, once they're installed.
Installation curl.
Oh wow, look at that. Build recommended. I'm just gonna click build. I just blindly follow defaults.
Blue button. Click the blue button.
Yeah, it's a call to action. I can't say no.
I accept your cookies.
But I don't. Yeah. Okay. So, is this it? Am I there?
Yeah. Now,
this is Jupyter Notebooks run in the browser. Okay, got it.
It's pretty slick, and we can go further down that rabbit hole. There's some really cool stuff, and there's actually a place called Binder that will run your Jupyter Notebooks on remote servers, and they have Google and Amazon hosted notebooks you can collaborate on. It's pretty rad what's going on. But yeah, the main thing here is open the notebook on the left or create a new one. And notice that you can also open a terminal. Actually, try this real quick, sorry. But open a terminal on the right-hand side of the launcher towards the bottom. And just like echo your messages.
Oh, man. Oh, I did build. Okay.
Shouldn't I have to reload? Click the red button, which seems kind of scary.
Wow. So it's just, wow, that's my shell. What's it doing in my browser, man?
I know, it's crazy. It's weird.
What if I log in again? Yeah, it has my message and everything.
Nice.
Oh man, it has read line shortcuts. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's some magic going on, some voodoo with this Jupyter Lab business.
Huh.
On the left-hand side, I'll just highlight real quick. There are a few buttons. Right now, you're looking at the file system view, so it's increasingly becoming like an integrated development environment. There's a Git plugin, the third button from the top. And if you want to browse the plugins on the left-hand side, yeah, you can create just file system actions. Yeah, that's your Git. So if you were working on stuff, you could commit and push from here.
Huh.
Then there's a few more sections at the bottom. There's plugins. If y'all, I always jump straight to the plugins whenever I install something new. And that's it. So I installed the Jupyter Lab Git. That's why you had to do that rebuild thing.
Uh-huh.
But there's some other cool stuff like a table of contents. So if you're writing a thesis or something like that and you've got code.
Not anymore.
I know. It's not timely, but maybe it would go for a doctorate.
Oh man, I don't ever want to hear that word again.
Sorry.
Okay.
What about LaTeX? Does that give you flashbacks?
I love LaTeX. I was not allowed to use LaTeX, but yeah.
Cool. There's a commenting extension we might use in collaborative sessions.
I think the word committee might give me flashbacks.
Yeah, but both Quakerly and academic.
Yeah.
I've kind of burnt myself out on Quaker committees.
Yeah. Well, I think my flashback is triggered by the thesis committee. Yeah.
All right, so let's hop up. Open the notebook on the file system view. You'll see the IPy and NB. You can just see what these other things do too, of course.
Okay, so that was up here, and This one must be the notebook?
Yeah, because we're actually just viewing the folder of files. And, you open that, it'll render the previous outputs. So none of this is run locally. These are just the outputs from when I ran it, committed it.
Okay.
So you'll have to rerun this.
Is that, there must be a button here maybe?
Yeah, so first determine if you want to change anything, but you can click a cell and hit Shift Enter. So click that cell and hit Shift Enter. And it runs it, see the little asterisk for a brief moment?
Yeah.
No errors, and you got some output. The last line in a cell prints to it's like the standard out. Whatever the last line returns gets printed out.
Well, that is very nice. So we're in Tampere.
I mean, well, if you want to run it, you can run it on a different city because I ran it on Tampere.
Okay, let's run it on. A country where you might not expect to have the same access to data. What's the capital of North Korea?
Kim Jong-il.
Pyongyang.
What's his name? Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un. That's it.
Very good.
Pyongyang.
There's probably only one of those, right?
Yeah, and I imagine so. And imagine you could even use the localized version. We could try that.
How do I do that?
The Korean characters. Look up Pyongyang.
Oh, I see.
And sorry to butcher that name, but you can copy and paste from Wikipedia. The Korean letters. Pyongyang, directly governed air city is what it's called. Pyongyang.
I have some Unicode characters that are not displaying on my screen. That must be it.
Yeah, or on the right. Oh, all of the Unicode are not displaying on your star.
Yeah, I've never been able to figure that out. I guess I should be embarrassed.
I think it's just a package. You just install kanji or something, or not kanji, but you're running What's your operating system?
It's Arch.
Oh, great. So you have to do everything manually.
Yeah, I have too much free time basically, but Shift Enter. I'm not really getting any output. Okay, let's make it a little easier.
Okay, we went a little bit off.
Pyongyang. Here, we'll just do Tokyo.
Okay. They have Archie fonts. Jeez. How about can't display extended Unicode. TTF, Indic, OTF.
Huh.
Data package were installed.
I feel like I'm making a mess of things.
Oh boy, what'd you do? You might have to.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, okay. Whoa. Yeah, it's cool. Each cell has its own history.
Well, I don't know what's going on. Is something supposed to happen? There's no output to this box.
Yeah, there's no output to that box. Do you see how the location data frame is assigned at the end of the box?
Yeah.
So that means there's nothing that gets returned. It gets assigned to a variable or a reference gets assigned to it. If you wanted to see it, you can run a command at the end of it, like location df head, or this is one where it returns an output. So there you go. You've got Tokyo.
Huh. So maybe Pyongyang did work.
Yes, and you just didn't realize it because there's no output.
Wow.
Whoa. All right, let's roll with that.
Wow.
Pretty
Huh.
crazy. It's fast.
Let me look up that package you were talking about. What do they call that? Like CJK characters? Is that right?
I think so. But is there just a general meta package that you can install all of those? Latin script, non-Latin scripts. They have Indic, but I don't know if how do you just get the whole Unicode? There's emoji. You probably want the emojis also. I can say though, I did switch back to Ubuntu.
Yes.
Over the last couple of weeks, and it does render these fonts out of the box.
Out of the box. Well, I have a little gripe against Ubuntu because that's what I'm running on Karen's laptop.
Yeah.
And the touchpad, if the laptop goes to sleep, you don't get the touchpad back when it wakes up.
Ooh, ouch.
And it's really hard because
Goes to sleep a lot.
you can't click on anything. You can't even turn the computer off unless you know how to use keyboard shortcuts to open a terminal and reload a module, a kernel module.
Mm.
So anyway,
Is it
I have
sleep?
to look into that.
Yes, that's a pain when those happen.
Okay, so I'll do the Unicode thing later.
Yeah.
So we have this. Okay, impressive. Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm happy. Are you surprised? I'm surprised that I have information about anything going on in Pyongyang.
Yeah.
So there's a children's department store. There's an underground store. Wow. Bus stops. Let's plot this. Ooh, wow. Buildings? Am I going to get buildings?
Oh yeah. This one takes a while. That's why we have our T handy.
Is there any indication anywhere that this code is running?
That little asterisk.
Okay.
You see where it has the line numbers? They're not really technically line numbers. Wow.
Yeah.
That looks kind of pretty. They turn to an asterisk. What those numbers are indicating is the order that these cells have been run. This is the 22nd cell you've run in this notebook, and that's the output of the 22nd cell. Now you run this to the 23rd, and the 24th, and the 25th one.
Can you run two cells at the same time?
No. doesn't handle parallel processing. The language itself is single-threaded.
Python?
Yeah. How many of those food sources were there? I didn't see the counts, but in any case.
Food sources. Where would we find that information?
Up a little higher when we created the food sources data frame. So I think we did a shape, and the shape plots out row count and column count. Food sources have 14 rows with 16 columns. So there's 14
So
food
there's
sources.
14 food sources.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not very many for a big city.
Yeah, it's not very.
Can't remember where I left off.
Count the numbers, 33. Oh, there you go, 148. So that's the big jump. I think 32 looks like just fast. All right, so this food catchment. I guess the food catchment is so simple that these are really fast. 82% coverage, though.
I've heard that North Korea is actually a utopia.
Huh. You didn't hear that from any of Donald Trump's supporters. Or did you, maybe? Actually, I think he's back. He's away.
So which one is supposed to take a really long time?
The one where it looks for building footprints within the amenities, building footprints with amenities. So it's doing the geo within query on what could be a complicated geometry. This is interesting though. This doesn't, there's not many places here that have that coverage.
Yeah, not too many restaurants. So this one takes a long time?
No, this is just, our data have already been counted here. This is just counting the values. So that should just go right away. So it says 90% false. Oh, I misread that. So 90% of them don't have access to amenities.
Yeah.
9% do.
Wow.
So we probably are dealing with several things, but mainly a lack of data, I reckon. Unless they have a different way of indicating convenience stores, or maybe they have a different concept altogether of convenience.
It worked though, pretty seamlessly.
Yes, so the code review has succeeded.
A lot of bus stops, a lot of food. Well, not a lot of food sources. I think that's probably the issue.
Yes, and how do we improve that in Pyongyang? Is it that the query is too restrictive? One thing you can do is, you see how you got your, let me think here. Well, for example, the buildings data frame has some columns in there, some text columns. And you see how there's convenience in the buildings data frame? Or what is that? Scroll up a little bit, because it's not on screen. All right, so buildings centroids. You see the buildings buildings geodata frame has some columns. There's an amenity column. Create a new cell. Click on below that buildings GDF head cell. So click in that cell and click the plus button on the top of the screen next to the scissors, and type this: buildings underscore GDF, and then dot value underscore counts. It's a function. So just run that. Hit enter. You can hit enter. Parentheses. Open and close parentheses. Sorry, but you have to go back before the dot and choose the columns. So square brackets indicate what column you're after. So open and closing, like open square brackets, and then type in quotes amenity, and then run this cell. So this is going to get the, yeah, because it's counting the values from amenities. So not many of them have, not many of those rows. Wait, there's no 5. Oh, because we're looking ahead. Sorry. Yeah, not many of the rows in this data frame set are using that amenity column.
Because there's 138 rows, and the sum of this little table is less than 138.
Or no, go up to buildings GDF and look at the shape of it. Or you can run buildings GDF.shape if you just want to run it in place. Like underneath the value counts, create a new cell. Yeah, and buildings underscore GDF.shape. And it's actually just a property. It's not a method. It returns a tuple. So there's 13,000 rows in that table. And what it's saying is
that is the problem.
That is, yeah. So the data are too sparse, and maybe there's a different way we would figure out. So what I'm guessing is somebody probably took aerial survey of Pyongyang and used that to derive the building footprints, but not many of these places have any other data than that.
I see.
Or there could be a different way that they're encoded, but yeah. Because I think a lot of these building footprints come from like Microsoft or other companies who've got big aerial photography collections, remote sensing type stuff, and not always just people point and clicking. Well, you use those to point and click or use computer vision.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing we would recommend for an urban analyst here would be to help improve the data so that the tool is useful.
Oh man, that'd be fun. I think you'd have to go there.
I don't think I'd be able to come back. I would get stuck somehow.
You might be able to come back. Yeah, they're really sensitive about visitors.
Particularly if you're walking around with like a GPS unit or something.
Yeah. Identifying every building.
Yeah. And organizing groups of people to go neighborhood by neighborhood. What would be a place that would have more data, do you think?
I guess Berlin.
So we're armchair tourists right now.
I think there's a Berlin in Ohio, but we'll see if this works. Can't tell.
Basically, if you look at the location underscore DF, you can type location underscore DF head, but that looks like the Berlin. So go to location underscore DF and type head after dot head. Well,
Right here?
No, down on the next line, basically create it. I mean, you could do that, but that would actually break the previous line because, yeah, now we want to just check that. Yep, head parentheses is actually a method. All right, so now you've got only one row. So I guess this will only ever return one thing, but you can see more columns here, the more metadata that comes back in this location data frame. So there's bounding box and the.
It's Germany.
Very cool. Now we're going to get supermarkets, convenience, and bakeries. All right, it's going to wait on those previously
Oh, look. So I do have two things going.
No, it's only doing the one thing, but the other one's waiting. So
Okay.
it won't. The other one won't kick off until the previous one completes. There you go. Now,
Nice.
what's the shape of this one? Look, like a lot of data there, but did you check the shape? Food sources
What are we
GDF.
looking for?
Food sources GDF shape. It's actually above the head. So when you peek the head.
Oh, shoot.
Either way is fine though. They're both useful.
So
in what we're trying to achieve.
Can a cell only have one output?
Yeah, the last output in the cell is what gets outputted to the. I think you can. Well, it's not quite strict. Like if you're looping over something, you can print something for each time you loop through it.
All right.
Yeah, so that would actually work. If you looped through all the rows in there, you could print through the name of each of the thingamabobbers. But okay, so we got almost 4,000 food sources in Berlin. This is sounding like it'd be a more reasonable analysis.
Takes a lot longer.
Yeah, because it's still stuck back up top, I guess, on one of these computationally intensive or slow queries.
Maybe. Oh my gosh. Maybe I'm doing all the buildings in Berlin.
Yeah, that's how the notebook works.
Ah, I'll be so impressed.
So there's ways that we'll be able to optimize this. Once we've got the basic proof of concept, then I can actually run queries in advance and I can store the output. So I can say, give me all the buildings in Berlin and then calculate the centroids on those. And then your analysis would be a lot faster.
Okay.
Basically, have to figure out that. We'll cross that
Oh,
bridge.
it's the bus stops. I haven't even got to buildings yet. So they must have a lot of bus stops in Berlin.
Yeah. And I wonder also they have other forms like trams, right? Might be worth considering other forms of public transit, I guess. So have you just told the Ubuntu computer not to go to sleep, or what do you do?
No, I just do that thing every time.
Trigger the handle.
I hit the Windows key, which brings up some sort of nice little screen. I type in terminal, and I hit enter, and then I just push up until I find the commands that made it work.
All right. Hopefully Karen's not running too many terminal commands.
No, I try to avoid that.
I think the answers that I saw on Stack Overflow or whatever basically do that. They run that terminal command when that event occurs, when a wake up occurs.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Whoa, what was that? Okay, never mind. That was what it is.
Hey, it works. Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Does the little Unicode thing or whatever? What
I just installed TTF Droid. Huh.
Wow. There we go.
That is amazing.
Mhm.
Wow. That's so cool. What is TTF Droid?
True type font for Android.
Yeah, why would I need it to display fonts on my laptop?
This author of the OSMNX has also published Urban Street Network Analysis, a computational notebook. In ERSA. What's ERSA? Powered by Woo. It's an open journal. So it's just something Google released to make it more convenient for Android to have Unicode support, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand why it's necessary for Firefox on a laptop, and also how this person says, but for some reason I also need it. I don't know. I'm just curious how they figured it out. Well, I don't know if we want to spend the rest of our morning waiting for.
Probably not. Yeah. Note to self: slow.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily slow for what you're asking it to do. Maybe it is.
It is, considering that if we could get this data into PostGIS or Postgres database,
Yeah.
we get this result back in about a few milliseconds, or if it's properly indexed and things like that.
Yeah, I guess we're not really asking for any computation right now. We're just
Querying.
Selecting, I guess.
Yeah. I guess the deal is that the location, it may be not indexed, like I don't know how the things work underneath the hood, but our location is like what? It's more or less, it's not using the geometry of the location, right? It's using kind of the place name. I just don't know how this is implemented in general, but if we were to do it in Postgres, we would have probably a couple of steps. We would get that. One way might be to do a geo-width inquiry and use a spatial index. That might return the value if you have a good spatial index and a good index on the amenity column, the highway column. That is, I think you can get those results back pretty quick.
Okay.
So one of the next steps in the project, in any case, is to move this code to a backend. And I believe that backend to serve the Django project more or less is going to need to start using Postgres database, so we can start these indexes, creating indexes and stuff like that. If you're going to change it in the settings and rerun it, you'll need to kill the kernel.
How do you do that?
Up in the top, there's a kernel menu. Alpine, Texas, that's a good place to start. Nice and small sounding. kernel up top, a little higher. They're interrupted. I guess they're polite. They just interrupt.
Yeah.
And you'll have to start at the top. Now the kernel's been interrupted. I don't know if it's got any of the imports. And it seems like it's still running. Try kernel restart. Something more aggressive. More rude. Alpine Texas.
Nice. Is there any way to run all the commands, all the cells at once?
Yeah, there's a kernel, or the run menu has that. Run all selected cells, all cells. Run all cells is probably what you're after. At the bottom. We'll remember that. What did we do here? What did you click?
I clicked run all cells underneath the selected cell, so that'll probably work.
Did it do it? It looks like it did it already. Oh,
Yeah, because Alpine's really small.
nice. It's like one bus stop. How many groceries are there? Smoking.
Got a couple bus stops. Food sources, there's only 2? 3?
Oh, yeah.
3 food sources. I've been to one of them.
Those food sources will need to get the Centroid for those probably. If it's going to buffer those. Maybe it doesn't matter, but it might make things faster when we work with those buffers to have a spherical or a circular buffer. Here we go. Looking good. So everything's done. And what did it? Whoa, their coverage is pretty good downtown. They've got
It's a
some
one-street town.
hippie commune over there that they've. That doesn't have.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, we kind of need a base map. That was one of the things I actually left out of this notebook. Is
Oh, okay.
I had some struggles with it, but it's important so that you can see around what's going on in Johnson Open Space Ranch.
Huh.
Doesn't know about it. Google doesn't even.
I just can't type into.
Try Openstreetmap.
Oh, there we go. Oh, really?
Yeah, you might as well.
Okay, so it's the airport.
Ah, okay. Strange. I guess, yeah, they have a lot of buildings there. Makes sense.
They have a lot more blocks than I would have thought.
How's your go rating?
Pretty good. That's not me. Where am I? 6.
Nice. It's still progressing. You haven't plateaued. You're still progressing upward.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to 1 done. I did plateau for a long period of time when I was really focusing on my thesis and started playing big board sizes. That brought me down, and then I just started playing 9x9s again, and it's going up. It's getting harder and harder to find a game. Actually, if you look at my game history, when it's darker like this, that's a stronger opponent. And I'm just like going through my pages, and like 2 out of 10 of my previous opponents were stronger than me.
Are you pretty much able to beat the AI?
Say again?
Are there any of the bots that are competitive with you? They're worth just.
Oh, sure. I mean, oh yeah. Well, that's what's really great when you're a site supporter. You can just click on any of these games, and
they have the 9x9 reviews now. Cool.
Yeah, So this is the Katabot,
Mm.
and it's ranked an 8 Dawn. So
Oh,
every game I get an 8 Dawn bot to pass its eye over the game and recommend, moves and analyze the moves.
hey, that's pretty cool.
Yep. I'm reading some books on Go.
Nice. What did you get?
There's one called Lessons in the Fundamentals of Go. There's just a bunch of Go books out there, but what I started doing is going to a San Luis Obispo. Apparently, is just big enough to have a Go club,
Nice.
and there is one other person who goes to the Go club, and so we've been meeting every week for several months now, and fortunately, he's a much stronger player than I am. So
You're basically getting free tutoring.
Yeah, basically we play one game, and then he reviews the game and gives me feedback.
Cool.
He also works in software, doing DevOps.
Mm-hmm. Not my cup of tea.
Working remotely. It's not his cup of tea either. He really wants out. I think he's about to put in his resignation and go take care of his grandma and just sort of think about what he wants to do with his life.
Yeah, we still are deciding what to be when we grow up.
Yeah. He works in Go. I mean, his language,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to stick with Python for a while, particularly since I'm taking on this new project and there's so much so many mature libraries in Python for almost anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Go, of course, I guess the big claim to fame, you mentioned Python is a single thread, and I guess Go has concurrency.
Mm-hmm. Built in. It's the lower level language, I believe, for systems programming. And if that's what those are your needs, then it's a good fit.
Right. I'm not sure how he got interested in it, but
Yeah. I think there's ways of improving the performance of Python code if need be, and also just using other systems to support your work, like using a spatial database to do some of the querying and pre-processing.
Yeah, it seems like it competes with Rust.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah, I think they're relatively similar problem domains they're covering.
And you know what else gets a lot of buzz these days is Haskell.
I've seen it a lot too.
Yeah. But I was reading that Haskell is associated with cryptocurrency for some reason. Or maybe not cryptocurrency, but just crypto in general. A lot of its funding comes from the crypto community.
Yeah, that person writing that article was really shining negative light on Haskell for that reason. I think weren't they on Hacker News? There's
there was
critical.
Yeah, it was like some dirty secret or something, or it had some bad consequence that I wasn't really following.
Yeah, like the language is fundamentally flawed because people are misusing it or something like that. Almost they were, I think, arguing to that extent.
Yeah, that was pretty severe. And then a couple days later came a very sort of glowing review of Haskell and how beautifully mathematical it was. It was like Haskell compared to Lisp, and they were just raving about how elegant Haskell was, even compared to Lisp.
Interesting. Well, if you would you on this GitHub, would you just sign off on that pull request? I just think that's a good habit, and I haven't really gotten a lot of peer review on it, but it's just a way of staying on the pulse of a project and getting used to that. Also, it counts as a contribution on your end of things. So if you start building a portfolio and an interest in having coding on your resume, practical experience, then doing GitHub pull request reviews counts towards that. That's
really cool. I'm going to try not to poach too much undeserved credit from this project. I think I'm happy just to come along for the ride when I can.
Yeah, well, you literally reviewed the code though just now, and you typed. and
That's
found
good.
worked, and we had interesting discoveries based on those tests as well. Like the fact that not only are some places just completely lack the data, they might have building footprints but not have amenities, but other times, like Berlin had, it seems like a different transport network, perhaps than Tampere, which only has bus stops.
So how do I indicate that I've reviewed this?
Add your review button. Now I have a typo in my commit message. Dagnabbit. You can either approve it or comment and remove the typo. Oh no. I have to go back and change the commit history to do that.
Okay, I'm not going to be that silly.
Oh, you were silly now. What was that? That was strange.
That was looking at the source of the page by accident. Keyboard shortcut. Prove.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good. Nice. Mr. Static.
Oh man, one of these days, Briley. I kind of like it though. It looks cool to me.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's like a metallic drop of, I don't know, some kind of metallic ink or something like that.
It looks, sparkly.
Glittery fingernail polish.
I was curious because each cell was supposed to be one pixel, so I'm curious how they resampled it. It looks like a planet.
Elvin and I have actually been getting into some games, space exploration and the like.
Yeah. My boss at my old work was really into a space exploration game. What's it called?
Well, we've been playing Kerbal Space Program and Simple Rockets 2. Have you tried it?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Pretty epic. Kerbal Space Program is really fun. It runs on Linux, and you manage.
Nice.
It's literally you're managing a space program. It's got quite a learning curve once you get past the basics, and I haven't gotten up there. But I'm thinking it's on the level of Go, where basically you learn rocket physics and engineering, orbital physics through a game. People do some really remarkable things.
How is it related to Go?
In the depth of learning, perhaps, and the time people can spend to master it.
Yeah. Go is interesting because there's only like a couple rules.
Yeah, right. Kerbal, there's a bunch of rules, I think. So maybe it's not as elegant in that way. Well, the rule in Kerbal, I guess, is to not crash. Maybe.
To go forward and explore.
Yeah, it's fun to crash. All right, should I stop live stream, you think?
Sure. Yeah, I guess.
Better.